So today I wanted to go over a little bit of a wish list I have for Fallout 76. Things I really want to see in this game, and kind of by proxy some things I don't want to see be continued in this game. This is obviously going to be a pretty opinionated video, so if you disagree with me, that's okay. I would actually love to hear from you guys, like what kind of features do you want in the comments down below, and maybe some actual insight, like yeah, I know, low-hanging fruit, no Creation Club. Yeah, okay, a lot of us don't want to see Creation Club in the next game, but maybe if you have something a little bit more intuitive or offbeat, that would be cool to read about. I think it's really interesting to just see what people's expectations or hopes are for this next Fallout. Something Obsidian did with Fallout New Vegas coming from Fallout 3 was actually implement a bunch of user-created mods, so that's somewhat of a guiding tone when actually creating this video. At the end of the day, these are highly moddable games, and pretty much everyone watching right now, I imagine, has downloaded at least one mod. So Bethesda implementing some of those or expanding on some of those mods and putting them into the core game, I would love to see, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit, as well as just some other features that modding hasn't really tackled. I would also love to see Bethesda tackle themselves. So these are in no particular order, just kind of as I thought about them. First and foremost though, we do have an expansion to Settlement Mode. So with all these rumors that Fallout 76 is going to have a heavy base building component, I feel like there's a ton of opportunities there. So this is coming from someone who was really freaking excited for settlement building, but super disappointed with the reality to the point where I pretty much never use it, or at least never use the vanilla mode. So if you guys remember back in the Fallout 3 and New Vegas days, there was a mod called Real-Time Settler. I loved that mod, and I actually think it was more functional than even settlement mode in vanilla Fallout 4. It allowed you to build little towns around the map, create supply lines between and trade between them. And I remember a lot of time I spent playing Fallout New Vegas, I would dedicate time to that mode because of how fun it was. So when Fallout 4 got announced and I saw they were implementing something similar into the game, I was ecstatic to see what they would do with it. In reality, when you actually play the settlement mode in Fallout 4, it just feels like The Sims. You can build whatever you want and have people live in those houses if you put a bed in it. But you had to literally do everything manually. Like, I would love it if my settlers could build their own huts, like Sim settlements. That's one of my first points. I would actually love to see some integration or taking some of the ideas from Sim settlements. Unfortunately, I'm going to go out on a whim and say King Gath probably didn't get integrated into Fallout 76 or added to the mod team. And the reason I say that is he never really had like a dark period. He has been consistently updating Sim settlements, which makes me believe that there wasn't a point where Bethesda reached out to him about joining the dev team and actually building out that mod for the next Fallout. Again, I have no insider knowledge. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but that's at least my intuition. At the same time, maybe they just copied some of his ideas. I don't like how I have to build every house in my settlement. I wish my settlers could do that or something else. I use settlement mode now only because of Sim settlements. I like that hands-off approach where I could be a more managerial style. I don't really want to have to build each individual shack for 20 settlers. And although Sim Settlements is pretty cool, I feel like it never filled the gap from Real-Time Settler for me. One thing I would still love to see, and I actually think Sim Settlements might be going towards this with its next DLC, is some kind of diplomacy. I think it'd be awesome if you could really build these settlements into kind of mini cities and do trade, conflicts, whatever it may be with other settlements or other cities in the Commonwealth. Or really, I'm hoping this gets integrated into Fallout 76, so in Virginia/West Virginia. Like imagine you had trade routes set up with Diamond City, so each of you were getting caps. But then a third trade partner comes in and it muddles things and it leads to a conflict between your two cities. I just feel like there's a lot to explore with that, and I think it'd be really cool. And just kind of as a proxy, I think some settlements should just build up themselves. Like even in Sim settlements, I'd love to see this, where if you never touch that town, I never have to even discover that location, they'll just over time build themselves up into a prominent city that you can go and enter into, meet the mayor of. I think that'd be really cool, and I would love to see that. Also, one final thing, and Sim Settlements kind of does this, I would love it if some of your cities can kind of turn into legitimate cities. Like if you put in enough time, effort, and money, it should be able to look like a diamond city. Maybe some miscellaneous travelers just stumble upon your city because of the reputation it has built for itself. So overall, I would just really love to see the settlement system fleshed out, and actually not so much in the building aspects, but in the management or expansion aspects. I think having diplomacy between settlements would be a really cool feature, and I know it's something I would dump probably hundreds of hours into. So we get into guns or weapons in Fallout 4. It's something that I've had a lot of issues with over the past few months. You guys have probably noticed this in some of my videos based on which mods I use. I would say Fallout 4 has one of the coolest combat systems out of any modern open world RPG. The gunplay feels amazing, and although the AI could be a little stupid sometimes, it still is a ton of fun to get into combat in that game. Unfortunately, the tools at your disposal got old extremely extremely quickly. Fortunately, there are probably literally thousands of weapon mods at this point, but either way, in vanilla Fallout 76, I would like to see this addressed. Fallout 4 created this awesome combat system. Fallout 76 will probably just reuse the system. I don't really know where they can improve, but I would love it if in that game there's really a divide between weapons. Like there's going to be a set of makeshift weapons that the raiders or the miscellaneous people will actually have on them, and then as you get to the higher end or the higher tier, there's actually going to be leftover modern military weapons. Fallout 4 did this to an extent, but not really. I mean, the only makeshift things we really got were like the pipeline, as well as like the shish kebab. And I feel like actually fleshing that out, actually making it so there's a lot of makeshift options, or even some of those modern military pieces of equipment with a makeshift variant. Like when something broke, they had to use whatever you had around to fix it. I just personally think I would really enjoy that. Even if it isn't necessarily the most realistic, I think it would immerse me into this world way more. You probably heard me talk about how I wish there was more makeshift weapon mods for Fallout 4 in some of my videos, because I do. There really isn't a huge selection there. And also to build on that, just get rid of that legendary weapon system. I'm not a huge fan of that. Legendary enemies in general are just bullet sponges, give kind of intuitive ways to make people harder. Make it so the guy with the super big and scary armor is harder to take down. It doesn't matter if he's a legendary enemy or not. And unique weapons, ones where they actually do have a legendary effect, but there's literally only one of them across the Commonwealth and has a unique paint job. I want to see that make a return from Fallout 3 and New Vegas. And just beyond both of those, I would love to see more variety in the weapons. I feel like right now in Fallout 4, there's like, what, one SMG? I mean, technically you can edit a pipe pistol to be an SMG or a 10mm to be fully automatic, but as far as true SMGs go in Fallout 4, you literally just have the thing named SMG. I'd love to see a few more options in each of these categories. Maybe one or two to actually pick from with different customization options that give them their own feel. I really hope Bethesda does this, considering again, they spent a lot of time developing the combat system for Fallout 4, but as long as Fallout 76 is the same engine, it could reuse this combat system, so hopefully this time around they spend more time fleshing out the weapon choices. Since something I would really love to see is consequential weather. So in Fallout 4, the weather might make it a little bit harder to see, might give you some background noise, but otherwise you pretty much could just ignore it. I'd really like it if weather played a more significant role. Things like rad storms actually being a powerful force that you kind of had to adjust for. There are definitely a few mods that actually implement this into Fallout 4, and even just looking at some of those mods, bring them over to Fallout 76, or implementing your own unique weathers, I think would be kind of nice. So this is going to be a really big one for me, and that's going to be mod support from day one. I was a huge critic of Bethesda following the release of Fallout 4 because they didn't release mod support for many months. Fallout 4 came out in November. I think PC official mod tools came out in March or May of the following year, and you couldn't download your first Xbox One mod, I think, until June of the following summer, or somewhere around then. The takeaway being, there was about a 4 to 6 month window in between the release of the game and when modding really started to pick up. I think making mod tools available from day one is essential. You're going to get a way bigger audience and probably hold on to a lot of that audience also. There's a lot of people that played through Fallout 4 for the first month, finished the game, and were like, alright, I'm done, because the modding scene hadn't really grown yet. They didn't have the tools to actually do that. There was no console modding for another 6 months. I bet if all that's available from day one, you'll hold on to a subsection of that audience for a lot longer, and it's just something I would love to see implemented. I think Fallout 3 and New Vegas had mod tools from day one, so it's kind of ridiculous that Fallout 4 didn't. So this one might be asking a little bit too much, but I would actually really like to see the psychological effects of the world getting destroyed on the people you encounter. One of the big changes with Fallout 76 is it's taking place 25 years after the bombs dropped, compared to Fallout 4 that's I think 210 years after the bombs dropped. Any of the older people you encounter in Fallout 76 hypothetically were alive before the bombs dropped, and they experienced the normal or pseudo-normal world that they lived in. Just having the game be much darker overall, because these are people that lived through getting their whole world turned upside down, their towns getting destroyed, their families getting killed. I'd really enjoy that, and I think it's a cool aspect that they can explore. I have very low hopes though. I don't think they're going to explore this at all because they want the mainstream audience and things like that. But I more or less would just really love to see a darker undertone showing some of the negative aspects of society when it goes into this state of looting, crime, when there isn't government to kind of oversee you. How even good people, when turned desperate, can go very bad. So something they toyed around with Fallout 4 is actually paths for each of the different factions. So more or less, when you aligned with one of the 4 factions in Fallout 4, you would actually get certain perks each quest you completed, and as you went further and further down that line. I think exploring that system and actually kind of expanding on it and obviously re-implementing it in Fallout 76, again, they thought about it, some of the files are there in Fallout 4, but it is cut content. But so let's say Faction 1 in Fallout 76. So my first playthrough, I really closely aligned with them, and I hope that is a different different experience than if on the second playthrough I align closely with the other faction. I would just really love more trade-offs that make you kind of have to go down a certain pathway. So if you do a bunch of the quests, you'll get a bunch of cool armors from this faction, you'll get a few cool perks that you otherwise would have missed. Maybe an awesome unique weapon that you wouldn't have been able to complete that quest and get that weapon if you actually sided with one of the other factions also. Again, it's a concept they kind of toyed with Fallout 4, so I do really hope it is explored more in Fallout 76. And then finally, last but not least, real DLC. Fallout 4 had a lot of DLC, but a lot of it was crap. The only good DLCs in my eyes at least were Far Harbor being absolutely the best. A lot of people would actually say Far Harbor is better than the base story of Fallout 4, but even beyond that, Nuka World was pretty okay, and the Robot DLC is definitely my third. But there's only 2 story-based DLCs for Fallout 4 compared to other games that actually typically had 3 to 4 story-based DLCs. I think I speak for almost everyone where we want to see more story DLCs. If they want to continue with those whole workshop DLCs that add in new things for you to do in workshop mode and settlement mode, more power to you. I just want them to make that as an add-on. I don't want it to be replacing my base game story mode DLCs, the ones we're used to. If we have 8 DLCs in total, 4 of them being story mode and 4 of them being workshop, cool, I'm fine with that. I could just not buy the workshop DLC if I don't like it. In Fallout 4, I just didn't really like how it seems like the workshop DLCs actually replace the story DLCs. And then finally, Creation Club. I'm really curious as to where they'll go with this. I don't think we'll see it announced at launch, but if they re-implement Creation Club with Fallout 76, I'm honestly not opposed to it. Fallout 4's Creation Club definitely got better over time, but it still has a lot of room for improvement. So I'm open to the idea, but I just really hope they do Creation Club right. I think in concept, getting mod authors to actually make higher quality DLC styled mods for Fallout is a pretty good one. There's a lot of stuff I'm willing to pay money for at a certain quality level. It just hasn't really been done yet through Creation Club. There's only a few things that I was like, all right, that's a good deal. Either way, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this video. In the comments down below, I'd love to hear some things you guys want to see from this game. Do you agree with me? Do you vehemently disagree with me on some of these points? But before we end things off, I do want to share with you today's psychology fun fact of the day, and that's going to be white coat hypertension, or what a lot of people call the white coat effect. So the idea behind this is if you're in a doctor's office getting inspected by a doctor or someone in a white coat, you're actually going to have physiological changes just as a result of that doctor being present. This is typically seen in an increase in blood pressure or actually your heart rate. So this has become a thing that a lot of people are actually studying and looking into because, naturally, if you're getting different physiological readings based on the presence of an actor, that could lead to, negative results down the line. You're going to interpret those results as just neutral or natural. Well, in reality, they may be the result of an excited system, which changes things. So I personally found this pretty interesting, mainly because, one, it's kind of intuitive. Yeah, a lot of people get scared or nervous when going to the doctor. But even beyond that, the fact that a lot of doctors now are kind of taking this into account when doing some of their readings and incorporating it into their margin of error. So when you get, all right, this is your safe zone, now they're taking into account that it's going to be a little bit higher because of the white coat effect. I have an article down below. It's pretty technical, so it might be hard to read if you don't have like a biology or medical background. But hey, if you want to read it, it's down below anyway. Either way, as always, again, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.